It's been a year now since the attack stopped in Jurf, Sahkr, and it's been over 8 months since I left. And I'm proud to say that I communicate with the unit that's there, and they still have no attacks. So our time ended in Jurf, Sahkr with success. We went from a city that was violent every day to a city that had a local, legitimate government that was effective and self-sustainable.
All right, we don't have to get too, we don't want to make this an all-day thing. We're just going to come right back up around this stuff.
If we don't, the way Valerie is, the canal right there, we either have to walk on that.
I'd say 2-3 weeks ago, we got hit. Within 300 meters, we got hit with 3 IEDs. 2 vehicles disabled. One was one of those big Jurfs, so it didn't do nothing to it. After one of the explosions, they had 2 3-man element small arm ambush on a sergeant major and a bunch of other dismounts. It was pretty crazy. It was a crazy day.
We're right around the corner, along the building, over.
You guys all right?
Yeah, combat. Roger, we're with me right now. We're good.
Let them know there's down wire, don't touch nothing.
Hey, there's a down wire over here. Come on, come on. You're almost 7.
It was an IED that was detonated basically probably as bait. And the squad that went out there to conduct the crater analysis was in the middle of conducting their crater analysis, and a much larger IED that was buried right next to it was detonated. There was a power line that was damaged by the first, or cut by the first explosion, and one of our soldiers was pulling security over by those metal eaves and was electrocuted by the power line when it fell.
Hey, Pilot 3 said that he saw a black van take off the second that explosion went off and head up North Patty. So just be advised, I don't know if you want to call that up.
We'll move this element, we'll pick up and move the elements once the boats get out on the water. I was the commander of Apache Company, 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment. My company had to rebuild a very war-torn and dangerous part of the Sunni insurgency, and we were trying to establish an effective, sustainable local government in an area called Jurf, Sahkr, Iraq.
We're there trying to clean Jurf, Sahkr up, I guess the best way to put it. It's not it's definitely not a American or even coalition force friendly town.
It's pretty hostile. To my knowledge, it is the most hostile area in the battalion area. It's day to day. You usually get contact. It's not really if you're going to get contact. It's when you're going to get contact.
When we first assumed responsibility for AO Apache, couldn't be any more than 30 square miles of Iraq. Farmland along the Euphrates River, Jurf, Sahkr, very small town. Basically, the population was predominantly Sunni. Very, very pro-Saddam, very, very anti-American, very, very anti-Iraq government. Been a lot of fighting there, a lot of coalition casualties before we got there. Yeah, not a very fun place, very dangerous. We averaged some sort of violent contact more than once a day, usually, there in and around Jurf, Sahkr.
At the end of 2006 and the beginning of 2007, Jurf, Sahkr was one of the most, if not the most, dangerous areas of Iraq. We had an average of more than 1 attack per day. In fact, in my first 7 days of command there, we were attacked 9 times.
Company commander was attacked by an IED going to a city council meeting. A couple of our soldiers were wounded in that attack. We had some direct fire engagements that same day. Had a pretty much shootout at the OK Corral kind of day out at the patrol base with just about every unit that was out involved in some kind of melee with the enemy. Things started to really ramp up.
Jurf, Sahkr looked like a war zone. It looks like what you think of when you think of a war zone. The streets were empty, buildings were blown up, there's rocks and rubble everywhere. Literally, all the cement had steel coming out of it from where it had been exploded. People were afraid to look at you in the street. I would walk around and I would see children with treatable illnesses who, if they had received medical care, if they were not afraid to leave their town, they would live. And while we were there, unfortunately, we saw people like this not getting care, dying for no reason, just because the people were so afraid. The atmosphere in this town was people were scared. The everyday average Iraqi in this town could not leave his house. He was not employed. Kids could not go to school without passing bombs on the road. So the atmosphere was one of danger, of complete destruction in this town.
We can give them money, we can give them aid, we can give them what help we can. The insurgency, since they rely on stealth, they work in their house. We try not to go into their houses unless invited or whatnot. These guys go right on in. This is what we need, this is what required, or you're dead. That's very personal. When you feel you can't protect yourself from home invasion, it's been hard for them to get over that fear because it's the norm. Saddam Hussein and his men, it was an open door policy across the country. If they wanted to come and abduct you, do whatever with you. And so that fear is still remaining there.
Town is desolate, attacks frequent. We've had 55 attacks last June alone. We've seen mortars, we've seen machine gun fire, sniper fire, IEDs. I used to be an IED in the street of Jurf, Sahkr almost every day.
And so what it created was an environment where an extremist or terrorist organization could easily recruit. Not only because there's a power vacuum, but because people need money, they need jobs. And so if for 5 years the average 13 or 15-year-old kid has not been going to school, has not been educated, cannot get a job, and seems to be in a dead end or endless world that he can't get out of, it's very easy to convince these people or to sway them to do bad things, especially for money, for their livelihood. And so we not only had sympathizers, but we also had an environment that harbored and allowed terrorists to operate mostly because of funding. So it was a bad situation for everybody.
Well, when your husband's in a situation like that, how do you keep from thinking about it every day? And I think that does come down to a lot of your own personality, but I have found, and I think a lot of people that I observe also, there is nothing you can do about that situation, and worrying about the situation doesn't help them and it doesn't help you. So if you can just kind of separate that into its own spot in your head, that's something you can't spend all your time worrying about, because it just makes the day go so much longer. Everybody's in this together, and this is part of our role. So some people that's, being really involved with their kids, and other people involved with the FRG, and other people involved with work. But you create your own way of being distracted, so when your husband doesn't call, you have your own things going on, so that's not the center of your world.